Welcome to Wednesday. It's the 23rd day of February 2022. This day weather podcast on this frigid Wednesday brought to you by Chugwater Chili, the gourmet spice of Western life. Don't forget to get 20% off your next purchase by using checkout code ChugwaterDon at chugwaterchili.com. Try out their green chili seasoning. Hopefully you've made a big pot of steaming hot chili during this cold wave. You still got time because the cold wave is going to hang on for a little bit longer. Today is going to be another brutally cold day, and the southern areas are going to get snow, namely Colorado, Utah, Arizona, parts of New Mexico, the southern areas of Wyoming along Interstate 80, and into areas out east from those areas as a storm comes through the Four Corners area. We're going to have severe cold through Thursday. Very modest improvement will take place on Friday. Temperatures on Friday, you're going to start to notice on Friday them being not as severely cold, but it's still going to be chilly. But by this weekend and early next week, the Arctic air will get pushed off to the east, and we'll have a nice warm-up coming by late in the weekend and early next week. Unsettled weather, though, returns late next week. The weekend after this one coming on up, the weather gets busy again. And how cold did you get? Let us know. However you're watching this podcast, whether it's on YouTube or another venue, post in the message or the comment section how cold it's been, or maybe take a picture of your thermometer. Let's have some fun and see how cold it is or has been, especially with those temperatures and those wind chills here across the West. You can also send your report to podcast@dayweather.com. Got some great photos of sundogs. In fact, with this severe cold and the snow, you get very tiny, minute ice crystals that form in these Arctic air masses, and that reflects from the sun. And so what happens is you get these little rainbows on either side of the sun. So here's a great shot south of Saratoga from yesterday, and another great sundog here in Laramie. And the opportunity to see sundogs will probably be with us the next couple of mornings as well. As we take a look at where we are today, we have a low near Las Vegas, and this is going to be the snowmaker today as moisture gets thrown over and on top of the Arctic air. You can see this. This is the precipitation forecast through tomorrow afternoon, and you can see overrunning the Arctic air is a pretty good patch of moisture, especially over the mountains of Colorado, the mountains of Arizona, far southern Colorado, even into the mountains of northern Mexico are going to get snow. Once you get north of I-80, though, the moisture kind of runs out, and you're just going to be basically looking at flurries and deep Arctic air. But when you have Arctic air and you have this type of Pacific moisture, it doesn't take much for the snow to stack up. So it's going to be a fairly decent snow, light snow out on the plains. Look at the snows. We could see upwards of 30 to 36 inches of snow in the high mountains of southwest Colorado. Good snows in the mountains of Utah and Arizona and northern New Mexico as well. Going forward, though, we will see the snow and the cold begin to ease off to the east. But it's going to be a while. This shows you the extent of the Arctic air mass. This is as of noon today. So you can see all the purple there, and you can see the severe cold getting down into Texas now. This is by noon tomorrow. So notice by noon tomorrow, there's a lot of purple still, but it's beginning to ease a little bit. By Friday, we have less purple and we have more green. It's still cold by anybody's standards, but not as severely cold. And then by Saturday at noon, you can see that the warming trend along the east slopes of the Canadian Rockies pushes into Montana and into some of the plain states, while the cold is going to be stubborn. As we talked yesterday, it's still going to be cold relative to normals in this part of the USA here through the weekend, as cold air will get trapped in the basins and valleys of western Colorado and into the Great Basin. But look what happens by noon Monday. By noon Monday, we have a full-fledged Chinook in effect, and temperatures are going to moderate. So there is an end to this cold, but we've got to wait really, today, tomorrow, and Friday before we can really notice it getting warmer. And certainly by early next week, it'll be a lot warmer. And this is why we go back to phase 1 La Nina. Westerly flow returns. This is by Tuesday morning, the first day of March. So mild Pacific air is going to dominate. So we're going to go from an Arctic air dominated pattern by next week to a Pacific dominated pattern. So that's going to really mean a much warmer pattern. But we've got a low back up here, and we've got a lot going on up in the Pacific that's going to lead to changes later on. Now, this is by next Friday and Saturday. We have a broad trough coming into the West Coast. This will bring rain and snows back to the West Coast and the Pacific Northwest. And by late next week and by next weekend and going forward, we have a large cold trough coming back into the western United States. Now, this is for Wednesday, Thursday, the 9th and 10th. So we're going to have a low pressure somewhere in the Rockies. The door to Canada is open again, and we're going to see another round of colder, wintry weather, likely coming in by next weekend. So to summarize, we've got this Arctic wave and some more snow coming today. Cold temperatures Thursday and Friday, a warming trend and brisk winds this weekend that will go into the middle of next week. And by late next week and next weekend, it's back to winter again in the West. Have yourself a great Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow and stay warm.